It is exactly 30 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Jeff Kadange Live here at Citizen Television. Now, we're talking about these fuel prices that has everybody up in an uproar. On the far side, I've got Kenyata Member of Parliament, Manyora, in the house. He's the guy who crunches the numbers. And he's saying these fuel prices are ridiculous. Right next to me is engineer Edward Kenyan. He's the Director of Petroleum and Gas at the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA. And then we've got Matatu Owners Association, Albert Karakacha. He's walking in right now. Come on, karibu sana, karibu. It's all good. And then we're waiting for Kimani Kuria. He's a chairman, Finance and National Planning Committee. Engineer, we've just got some breaking news like moments ago that what EPRA has decided to do. Break it down for us, please.
Thank you, Jeff. Yesterday we had released prices based on the legal notice that was there. Legal notice number 69 of 2026, which effectively had reduced the VAT level from 16% to 13%. So the prices we published yesterday were basically based on that 13% VAT, which was a reduction of 3%. But of course, today, as per the directive from His Excellency, VAT has been reduced again from 13% to 8%. That's why you've seen that press release which has just come out now, reducing the price of super petrol, which we call PMS, by 9 shillings and 37 cents, and also reducing the price of diesel, which we call automotive gas oil, by another 10 shillings to retail now at 196.
So from 206, which was petrol, right?
Yes.
Reduced by 9 shillings.
9 shillings and 37 cents.
So it comes down to about 197. 97. Is that effective immediately? Will we see that at the pumps immediately?
The way the notice has been done, it will be effective from midnight today, which is jumping from 15th to 16th. Because we normally have cut-off lines, because we are cognizant that even petrol stations have their own operational times. Most of them will change prices at midnight, so that is why we have indicated 16th.
Yeah.
So by tomorrow morning, when people wake up, now the pumps will be reflective of that change.
Mahesh, does that make any sense?
Thank you very much, Jeff, for having us today. I actually thought you'd have the chairman of Boda Boda Association. I would have been very glad to meet the Kenyans who are going through these very, very tough situations, especially in the specific industries. From the onset, Jeff, I have to say that I'm a very disappointed Kenyan and a leader, and especially a person who participated in a big way in selling a message to Kenyans, and especially Kenyans who really need to be supported through decision-making in terms of leadership. I've been speaking about this matter of fuel since 28th of February. And whatever is happening is not an emergency to Kenya. Kenya knew we will be in this kind of a situation from 28th of February. And I've actually been doing press conferences every week, calling upon the people in government to at least afford time to think about this very critical issue about fuel. But of course, they bought time. Up until yesterday. Even yesterday, I was with a part of your team, again challenging the government that when you have instruments of power, you cannot again continue promising the people, and especially when you have abundance of time. So what happened yesterday, Jeff, is that even by the time EPRA sent whatever they sent to the newsrooms, they were still consulting up to late in the night, that the government had actually not made up their mind on what would be the pump prices in Kenya. But to put it into context, number one, let us be a country that follows our laws. We all have given proposals, including today, which I will repeat here in this show. And I actually should start with them so that I come now to the specific one you've asked. In my interaction with the media today and yesterday, I challenged the government to do 3 things. One was to lower VAT in the intervening period up to 8%. But in the medium term, to lower it much more to VAT exempt. On that 5% alone, the pump price would go down by around 9 shillings, as it was done this evening. But there are 2 other things, critical things that we must do. and underline must, that Kenya must do away with the 7 shillings fuel levy that was done by the government in the year 2024. So that is knocking again another 7 shillings. Jeff, there is something called Fuel Stabilization Fund in Kenya, paid for by Kenyans through PDL. It has close to 17 billion Kenya shillings. And that is the fund we use to give subsidies, or the government should use to smoothen and to give Kenyans reprieve at a time like this. They have only drawn in around 6 billion. I'm challenging them to draw in another 5 billion so that we give an extra subsidy of 12 shillings. In my calculation, which I did, and I hope you shared in your news,
yeah, you did.
Through my proposals, which are 3, we would reduce pump prices by 27 shillings by tomorrow morning. Because the choice we have to make, Jeff, is between making an adjustment that will spiral within our economy or then live with it. And there are many ramifications. We can choose to spend money. The proposal I'm giving will cost around 12 billion per month. The problem the world is facing and Kenya is facing is not long-term. But there are decisions we make today that will have long-term ramifications. Anytime you have adjustments upwards, let me use an example with my brother here. When you announce fares adjustments upwards, tell me when you ever saw a press conference, therefore, talking about downward trend, because there is adjustment downwards.
Never.
Because upward prices are always sticky. So I'm challenging the government. We bite the bullet. Our economy can afford to actually chip in the 12 billion shillings so that we knock off 27 shillings. Why? On this other side, we then arrest a spiral towards all the inputs of production, from labor in terms of transportation. When you come to work as an agent of the economy, you spend money on fare. That is an input. So we cut off that. We knock off in terms of manufacturing. The cost of electricity, part of the component in Kenya is fuel. Why can't we spend this money to arrest a spiral that would be sticky to the economy? Okay. And that is my proposal.
Hold that thought. Albert Karagacha, let me ask you this as Matatu Owners Association. You've already raised your prices.
Yeah, we raised.
You've already increased your prices.
Yes.
I mean, come on, man. The local Mwananchi, he's going to be suffering. Even though they've been reduced as of midnight tonight, your prices are still up there.
They're still up there because we've just got the information right now. And to us, what we are saying, we still demand more. Because if you go to the market, the commodities are still high. Go to the spares, they will still be high. Go to the tires we are using, they are still high. So we still demand for more. The way Mheshimiwa has said, I think the government need to go deeper into what has come up about the issue of the fuel to see, because if you go to other countries, they have reserve. When you come to Kenya, there's no reserve. We need to think about the reserve for maybe the next 6 months, 9 months. We should not condemn about the issue of Iran. We could be ahead of Iran. So to us, we still demand more.
Engineer, the breaking news, in case people are just joining us right now, what you just told us a moment ago, could you just repeat what EPRA, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, has just announced tonight?
Yes, to our viewers, we just reduced the prices of super petrol, which we call premium motor spirit, by another 9 shillings and 37 cents, which effectively now brings the price from 206 to 197. And then we have also reduced the price of diesel from 206.84 by another 10 shillings to 196. The reason why we've done that is because we have a new legal notice that has just been published in line with His Excellency's directive, the President of the Republic, that VAT on fuel reduces from 13%, where it was left yesterday, by legal notice number 69. So we have legal notice now number 70, which has effectively brought it down to 8%. Yeah.
Let me ask you this real quick. Can the president just make an announcement just arbitrarily like that, or does it have to go through Parliament?
Let me answer it in 2 ways, Jeff. One playbook that you must have mastered from this government is that when you run out of options for people to celebrate you, you actually forcibly create a situation. And this government's playbook is very direct. You don't need to be an expert or to have been very close to them to see that you make things so bad so that when you make them a little bit better, then you expect people to celebrate you. You know that rich man in the village who would come and shoot a villager by the foot and then call a harabe in the village, and they appear. The same person who shot the young man, and tells the villagers, I'll take up this bill out of the money you've contributed, the balance, I'm the one to pay. And then you want people to celebrate you. First of all, you are the cause. You are the person who shot this young man. And secondly, even if you pay the bill, you still leave them with the wood. That is the playbook that this government plays with. Because we have had time to do all these adjustments, but we never did. But let me now come to your question. The changes in terms of VAT in Kenya are guided by the VAT Act. If you read the section 6 of the VAT Act, and especially part 1 and 2, it is very clear that the minister may actually give a proclamation through a gazette notice varying VAT, but there is a rider, only up to 25% of the amount of consideration. So the VAT in Kenya now, the composition of the fuel, and I'll be using petrol for in this conversation, is approximately 25 shillings in terms of VAT. So you can only give a proclamation as a minister to the extent of a quarter of that. Additionally, if you have to do more than that, then there has to be a policy emanating from the National Treasury itself. Then it comes to Parliament, so that we amend the VAT Act. So as it starts now, the roadside declaration that was done today, number one, is a total show of ineptitude. One, because we had the time to do the right thing, but number two, it is actually not provided for anywhere. So I challenge even my brother here to tell Kenyans, if you have a fuel dealer tomorrow, you'll be selling downward of the VAT, the one you have read today here. What legal instrument will the guy, is the dealer going to request for the refund? Because as it is now, until we change the law, you can only vary up to 25% of the VAT of any element. Secondly, I am wondering what actually my brother is doing, with all due respect, and humbly. Why? He's representing a very fundamental organ here called EPRA. But who sets the fuel prices in Kenya as we saw today? Who sets? What you've read today, is it EPRA that set it? Jeff, is it EPRA?
It doesn't
It's a roadside declaration.
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to say is that we must not continue to expose, especially the leadership, to expose the ineptitude in terms of leadership to the Kenyan people. And especially when we had all the time over 40 days to do the right thing.
Engineer, you've just been challenged right there.
Yeah.
You've just been challenged.
Yeah, we are creatures of the law ourselves, and whatever we put in our pricing is guided by law. Starting from the pricing regulation itself, in terms of the price formula that we have, it is gazetted in law, and there's nothing that we can put in that build-up of the cost without having a legal instrument. Today I've just said we just received a legal notice number 70, which is an instrument of law, so which tells us to reduce VAT on fuel from 13% to 8%. And that is exactly what we've done. We are creatures of the law. As to how it has been done, I think as we work with the law that is already published and is there. And I think, I'm not a politician myself, but I think politicians like my brother here, Mheshimiwa, talk from both sides of the mouth. On one side, they are telling the government we need interventions to cushion mwananchi, because as we are working from fundamentals, we're looking at the cost of the international cost of fuel in the international market. We all know that on the 28th of February this year, there's civil strife or some tensions that arose in the Middle East, which is one of our biggest source markets for products in terms of petroleum products. And of course, all of us are aware that there's a strait called the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world oil passes. And if you remove from the equation of the world 20% of supply, of course, demand will outstrip supply, and that has an effect on the price. And this is something that we've seen. The barrel has moved from $60 that we had seen somewhere in February Today we are talking of $101 per barrel. So that is a reality in life, and it has reflected itself with the cargoes that we are receiving. So when we apply the fundamentals we have in law in terms of the formula, the landed cost, the cost of storage and distribution, the supply margins, and of course taxes and levies. Taxes and levies, which my brother Mheshimiwa is talking about, is basically supported by law. And this is what I was saying. We can basically support all those taxes with legal instruments. So when we put all those fundamentals together, they yield a price.
What if I go to my petrol station tomorrow morning and they haven't reduced the prices? What do I do?
That one you're supposed to report them to ourselves, because they will have breached the licensing conditions, and there are sanctions to it, including revocation of their license.
And now, Karakata, are you going to reduce prices tomorrow now that prices have been reduced? Are you going to do it real quick?
You see, the way Mheshimiwa said, you see, we have already fixed our prices, so we need to consult our members.
Oh, yeah.
And we cannot just...
Are you going to consult?
Yeah, we have to consult our membership.
So tomorrow
and,
you're charging, you're still charging what you said?
We will still charge what we've already increased. And if you see there, we are still demanding for more, because that fuel, where the prices we've been shown there, it is still high to us. Because if you check the business we are doing right now, let's go to the roads. Right now, we have potholes in Nairobi, yeah, which are not being repaired. So you can imagine we are still going...
You're talking about potholes, and we're talking about fuel prices, but
no, you have to merge.
Bro, see you nyinyi peke. Gentlemen, I want to take a break, right? Come back and talk about more. And Kimani Kuria, the chairman of the Finance Committee, Finance and National Planning Committee, will be joining us very shortly. We'll talk more about this in a little short moment. Ayub, what you got?